Hello and welcome into the Cubs on Deck podcast. I'm one of your hosts. My name is Greg Huss, and today for the Iowa Cubs preview, I am joined by Cubs and Marquee broadcaster Alex Cohen. Alex, how's it going, buddy?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
A little different introduction this time compared to the last 20 times you've been on the show.
Yeah, no, it is. Definitely a different role this year. Not doing 150 games, so I'll miss that. Just relocating to Chicago and kind of being a utility player for Marquee, doing stuff from the digital side, and then X amount of games when Boog is doing Sunday Night Baseball and other stuff. So it'll be a different schedule for sure.
Dude, I have to go back and check, and I should have done this before hopping on with you, but I think you've got to be the most frequent guest that we've had on this show.
I think so.
Whether it's Cubs on Deck or the old show over at Cubs Insider, I think you've got to be the most frequent one. I mean, you're got to be pushing like a dozen episodes on this show.
I'll take it. Yeah, I'm the number one pick. I'm fine with it. I'll be 1-1. I'm cool. That sounds great.
I said you got the most playing time, not necessarily the overall pick, but
most streams. No, I know my place. I'm good.
All right, man. So, you hinted it. So we're going to get into all the players. Again, this is kind of like the episode with Sam Wiederhaft to a certain degree. I have you on. You're no longer the broadcaster for the Iowa Cubs, like the episode with Sam Wiederhaft where we were talking about the Myrtle Beach Pelicans. Obviously, you have seen a lot of these players, and we'll talk about a lot of these players between your time in Iowa last year or your time down in spring training down in Mesa this year. But we'll get into the players. But I guess I want to lead off with just your transition from the iCubs to Marquee. What's that been like, I guess, in general, first over the past few months or so?
Yeah, different, exciting. Normally leading up to this point of the major league and minor league season, I mean, you go to this time last year, and I'm barely coming up for air. I mean, you're trying to sell advertising and get radio reads and figure out who your roster is and travel stuff. And now I have none of that. So it's been different. A little bit of my identity has been pierced, has been broken, and it's something that I'm trying to search for. But being with Marquee has been great. My role is, as I said earlier, is different. It's not just play-by-play broadcaster, but also multi-platform digital content creator. So creating stuff for the Marquee Sports Network app exclusive content. So that's what we did a lot in Japan, whether it was eating our way through Japan or me petting pigs or me spilling ramen on my shirt. I mean, it was not just play-by-play broadcasting. We're more in the art of storytelling and bringing fans, not just who want to watch a 3-hour game, but want to follow a team over a 162 game season, get the ins and outs of the on-field product, but also off-field products. So my job in that respect has changed a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's still baseball. It's still me watching and consuming baseball for an entire season, not broadcasting it over 150 games, but surely watching it over 162. So it's so different in some ways, but also like in the grand scheme of things, it's the same.
I was going to say, I mean, honestly, it feels just like wildly appropriate for you specifically. I mean, because I think that you did an incredible job during your time in Iowa in like building a community of fans, which is like that's what you're going for with Marquee, right? Is building a community of fans with more than just baseball. It's baseball, but also more than just baseball. And that was what I think that you did uniquely well during your time in Iowa was kind of creating that environment where fans were really excited to tune in and listen to you talk, but also kind of interact with each other and things like that. So, dude, I think that is an awesome transition for you specifically for that.
Thank you. I mean, as I said, like at the end of the day, it's baseball, and we're talking ball. And like you follow me on social media, like I'm not afraid to talk and go back and forth with people and have uncomfortable baseball discussions. And like, that's fun. Like, that's why we do this, because, I was a level of fan before getting into broadcasting. So I sympathize with it. I understand it. I'm essentially just a fan with a little bit more access and some public speaking skills. So I think that this is it's a great next step. It's one that's going to take some adjustment, but one that I'm going to be following not only the Cubs, but also every single level of the Cubs organization, draftees, rookie ball, or now, Dominican Summer League and going in the Arizona Fall League in the fall. So it's all pretty comprehensive.
You, what are some, I guess, looking back on your time in Iowa, some of your favorite memories with the iCubs, some of your favorite memories at Principal Park, maybe at Des Moines in general. Like, what do you look most fondly on during your time?
I mean, that's an easy answer. It's having you in the booth with me. Come on, Greg. I mean,
Correct answer. The only
we
correct
know
answer.
the answer to that. But no, I mean, it was 7 great years there. I mean, it was the 2019 PCL championship. It was, the celebration that you get winning the division title. It's Pete Crow Armstrong's first AAA hit being a home run. It's Jonathon Perlaza walk-offs, followed by Jared Young walk-offs. And just seeing all the prospects come in and the guys make their big league debuts, and seeing the tears streaming down their faces when they're told on a bus ride from Minneapolis to St. Paul or Minneapolis to Des Moines that they're going to the big leagues. So just being a part of that next step and seeing what the I-80 shuttle really is, and 343 miles and 3 turns, and just seeing how much weight that carries. So I think just being a full part of it for 7 years.
You got a favorite call from your time there?
That's really tough.
Yeah.
I think PCA's first home run in 2023 is one of my favorites. I brought up the back-to-back walk-off home runs, Jared Young and Jonathon Perlaza against Memphis. That was like the July 4th series in 2023. So that really sticks out in my mind. A couple no-hitter calls in 2021. It was like the year of the no-hitter. So that was fun. I think the first time I said Mash Mervis on a bomb, that was like, that kind of fits. I mean, I wasn't the one who came up with the nickname. I mean, Rich did from Arizona. Shout out Rich. But yeah, like hearing that in a call and just be like, that flows. It's good. So yeah, those are just some that really stick out to me.
I love it. I mean, you mentioned that you were in Tokyo. You made the trip with Marquee over to Tokyo to call the Cubs' first 2 regular season games of the year against the Dodgers in just an incredibly unique and fun series. What was your biggest takeaway? I guess let's go on field. You already mentioned the off field stuff. That's super, super fun. On field, what was the biggest takeaway from watching the team play in Tokyo?
Yeah, my on field one is Matt Shaw can play third. I think that when you go through the trials and tribulations of a rookie season, that first game made a throwing error and came back the second game against the Dodgers and made not 1, not 2, but 3 really nice plays, like above average defensive plays. And I get it. Like the arm isn't like a laser like Nolan Arenado, but he can cover a lot of ground there. He's got good range. He's got good left side of the infield instinct. So I think that he can play third in the big leagues for the next 10 years. So I'm pretty bullish on Shaw playing there, and he'll be an upgrade for the Cubs at third base because all the third basemen from 2024 are not with the team in 2025. So, I mean, he's an immediate upgrade there, and I think that'll do really well.
I love that. You also spent a lot of time down in Arizona, down in Mesa, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I guess my biggest question as it relates to prospects and the time down in Mesa is we've seen a lot of different prospects in Major League, both in Major League camp, but also in Major League games, even if they're not technically in Major League spring training itself. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so what's been your biggest takeaway in terms of what has stood out with the prospects being integrated in with the Major League established, the Dansby Swansons and the Ian Happs and the Jameson Tyones? Like what's been fun to look at in that integration between the prospects and the older guys? Yeah,
I think you just look at the Cactus League leaderboard for the Cubs and the prospects who are up there in hits and OPS and slugging percentage, like Ben Cowles, raked. Moises Ballesteros, raked. Gage Workman, who's still a prospect, but obviously a Rule 5 pick and has to be up in the big leagues, raked. So was whenever those young guys came in, they really contributed and delivered. I was really impressed with Moises Ballesteros offensively. Just 21 years old. Like he is an above average hitter right now in the big leagues. Just hopefully he can make strides catching wise. And I think he did that over the course of the Cactus League slate. And I think Craig Counsell even said that in his press conference before going to Japan, that he was pretty impressed with how hard Moises has worked and the growth that he made in this camp specifically. I think Ben Cowles, his first spring training with the Cubs, and he comes over in the trade last year with Mark Leiter Jr., and he was hurt, played 4 games with Tennessee, and he comes back, and he does a little bit of everything. I mean, he can play third, he can play short, he can play all the outfield positions, he can run a little bit, he can hit for power. So I was pretty impressed with Ben, and it really depends on where he starts the season. I'm sure it'll be at AAA Iowa. I can imagine he's going to jump up the prospect rankings because he'll rake there, and he might make a case to be a big leaguer by the end of the year. I was pretty impressed with Ben.
It's funny because I feel like a spring training game roster is not all that different looking than a AAA Iowa roster where you have some young guys. In AAA, you have a lot of pitchers especially. You have a lot of older pitchers on the team in AAA, and so it's really not all that different. So like for Kevin Alcantara, right? For Kevin Alcantara, he like playing in the major league, obviously 40-man roster guy, obviously already made it up to the bigs for a few games last year,
Yeah.
but it's not all that out of the ordinary for these guys that have spent time in AAA to be around some major league vets.
1000%. But I think it's really meaningful for the young players who have not been up to the big leagues. Like I think for Moises, it's a huge camp for him. So for him to be in big league camp as a 21-year-old catcher with an experienced pitching staff and really being looked like as a possible catcher of the future, going to the Arizona Fall League, hitting the way that he did, having the season that he had in Iowa as a 20 to 21-year-old. I mean, he's going to be 21 this entire season. So I think coming into camp and being able to integrate himself with the big league pitching staff and the big league pitching coaches and the catching coordinator and being able to implement what he learned into the first half at Iowa this year, like I think that major league spring training for Moises Ballesteros was probably more important than for any other prospect.
Yeah, I do agree with that. And even like the younger guys, I mean, that are not destined for AAA or maybe even AA this year, but there's guys getting in the back end of these games that they're going to spend the year in Myrtle Beach, or they're going to start off the year in Arizona potentially, and they're in the dugout for the first part of the game with these guys that are 10 years older than them. Like that's so cool.
I mean, you think of Justin Turner, he's 40 years old. He's old enough to be some of these guys, but dads. I mean, it's crazy. So, I mean, with Turner and Ryan Presley and Ryan Brazier, and I'm sure they were very helpful to the position players and the pitchers who were younger. And, it was their first, not only big league spring training, but also spring training in general with the Cubs. For Cowles, his first spring training. Remember, Ivan Breathauer, hit a home run his first spring training game. I mean, he was drafted last year. He was an A-ball. So I think it's an important spring training for those guys too.
Yeah, we gave I think it was BK Brendan King on the show. We gave him once he sees Ivan Breathauer in South Bend, we gave him a once a week limit on the Aaron Judge reference.
Got it. Okay.
He can do it. He can do it each week with a new team coming in.
Well, one time a week.
One time a week, because there's a new fan base coming in, like listening from the visiting team, right?
Yeah.
So he gets to mention it to them, but then we're done for the week because we can't mention Aaron Judge and Ivan Breathauer too many times together. That gets a little bit dangerous.
Okay. I'm going to hold BK to it because I'll have more time on my hands to listen. So I will be the arbiter in those type of discussions. I'm fine with that.
I love it. All right, man. You want to talk players specifically? We got a lot of guys destined for Iowa, and one I guess we still have the Tennessee preview to do. So I'll emphasize this one time, and then I got one more time on it. Is that the guys we're talking about today are who I have projected for AAA Iowa. Sure. We don't know who's on the roster yet. And so anybody out there listening, if I get somebody wrong, if Johnny Long for some reason ends up in Tennessee or in Knoxville to start off the year, then don't hold it against me. We're going to talk about him here today in Iowa.
Cubs.
but we're going to talk about these guys because we got to talk about them somewhere, right? And I've decided Iowa is the place to talk about them. And really, the guys here are guys that we've been obviously familiar with for quite some time. They made it up to AAA for a reason, but they've been the guys we've been talking about for the last 3 years in depth, really. And so let's go ahead and start off with the top 100 prospect type hitters, right? That's Moises Ballesteros, Kevin Alcantara, James Triantos, and Owen Caissie once he's healthy. I don't necessarily expect to see him on the opening day roster later this week in Iowa, but once he's healthy, he will be there. And I don't think it'll be too long from now. Let's dig into those four guys because you saw all four of them in AAA Iowa last year. We're probably going to see them start off the year this year there now. What's the I guess is Moises Ballesteros the one guy you're focused on the most?
Yeah, I mean, I think so because it's a position of need. I mean, they have two catchers obviously in the big leagues. It's an upgrade with Miguel Amaya and Carson Kelly. But if either of them get hurt, guess who's up? It's Moises Ballesteros. I think offensively he can obviously do it. Can he do it defensively? Can he get better each and every time he gets behind the plate? If he works with experienced pitchers, will he do as well with Jamison Tyone that he does with Matthew Boyd or what he does with Justin Steele? So I think the catching part of it is really important because he can hit at the big leagues and can hit at the high levels. So I'm really excited to see him early on in the season when it's cold in Des Moines and he is, behind there for 3 hours. If he's calling a good game all 3 hours of that. So I think Moises is definitely the player to watch out of the top 100 prospects. I will say this. I think James Triantos is exceptionally underrated. And I think defensively, you got to figure out a position for him to play and play well. I mean, they moved him from second base to center field, a little bit of third, a little bit of short. And, I'm not saying that defense is a pitfall, but you have to figure out where he plays and where he sticks because he's a guy in the big leagues who could have 200 hits in a year. I mean, he's that good bat to ball skills offensively. I think that he is probably the best pure bat to ball hitter in the Cubs organization they've had since Chris Bryant.
I think it was the spring breakout game where James Triantos hit his first 2 at bats. He went line drive between the first baseman and second baseman to the opposite field for a single, and he went little bloop shot over the second baseman's head for a single. It's like that. That's some serious James Triantos stuff right there, right? Like it's finding ways.
It's him, but also like he can run.
Yeah.
Like he can steal legitimately 40 to 50 bags. Like it's a plus tool. Like the hit tool is a plus tool. He's not going to hit for like above average power, but he's got some gap to gap juice. I mean, he's somebody who could have 25 doubles and 8 triples with his speed. I mean, I think that he's a 300 hitter in the big leagues, 280, 290 hitter with a 340 on base. And a guy like, I'm not saying he's going to slug 550, but I mean, he could be a 450. So like he could be an 800 OPS guy. He could be Nico Horner offensively with, I mean, Nico's got elite bat to ball skills, and I think that James is right there.
I think that's an important part. You mentioned the OBP, right? That 340 OBP to go along with the 300 batting average. That's super important for him to be a successful big leaguer because we know the hit tool is incredible. Like
he doesn't strike out that much. And
exactly.
Like, it's not like a bunch of Ks. So you have to be able to draw walks and have productive at-bats. And I think that, as I said, like, I don't hold this lightly. Like, best pure hitter, bat to ball skills Cubs organization in a decade since KB. It's that good.
And it was something he's mentioned, right? He mentioned on I don't know if it was a Marquee broadcast or the spring breakout one.
Yeah.
But he mentioned specifically that limiting the chase in his game is incredibly important, right? Because we've grown accustomed to, I think you probably saw several times last year where he'd get a hit off of a fastball that was at his eyes, right?
Yes.
And it's awesome. Like it's so cool.
The tomahawk or like flicking a low and outside breaking ball into right field,
and
which
I
is
love
great.
it.
It's sick, but like you're not going to do that in the big leagues consistently on 100-mile-per-hour manual Class A cutters. Like that's just not going to happen.
But part of it too is we've talked about it on the show. It was kind of the PCA thing where I think PCA was down in South Bend maybe, and he basically his OBP was the same as his batting average, and it was like 340 or something. It was something ridiculous. And we're like, oh, he's not taking walks. It's like, yeah, but if you don't need to take a walk to get on base, if you can hit your way on base, then why are you going to take a walk? And so I think that's part of it with James.
Because then the BABIP gods will get to you, and then you're hitting the ball hard, but it's right at people, and there needs to be another facet that gets you on base. I mean, for Pete, it's his speed. You put the ball on the ground on the left side of the infield, you're probably going to get on base. And I think with James, what people don't understand is he as fast as Pete? No. But does he have that part to the game where he puts the ball on the ground, he makes the defender think an extra second about the throw or his footwork and his positioning? He's got that part to his game too.
So I know that this is the case with Moises Ballesteros, and we can talk about it with him, but also with Kevin Alcantara and Owen Caissie a little bit. But I think that it's incredibly important for those 3 guys specifically. Outside of James Triantos, he's kind of a unique scenario where a lot of things have to fall right for James Triantos to get a promotion up to Chicago this year. But with Moises Ballesteros, Kevin Alcantara, and Owen Caissie specifically, it's incredibly important for them to be consistent at the plate throughout their time in AAA, right? So for example, for Moises Ballesteros, when there's a catcher injury in Chicago, that he needs to be hitting well at that specific time over the past, let's say 2 weeks or whatever it is, in order to get that call, or else to go to a veteran catcher for a week at a time, right? Where they can call a guy up and then DFA him.
The Christian Bethencourts, the Tony Walters, is the Austin Romines that they've had in the last.
Yep, exactly. Oh, and the same could be said for Kevin Alcantara and Owen Caissie, who are in a lot of ways competing for a spot in Chicago in the outfield if there was a long-term injury, right? So like if say Ian Happ goes on the shelf for a few weeks and the Cubs need a guy to fill in for an extended period of time in Chicago.
And it would have been Alexander Canario in the past.
Exactly.
And right now it's either Kevin or Owen or somebody out of the organization.
And it becomes incredibly important that one of those guys is riding a hot streak, because I'm sure it plays to their advantage if they're riding a hot streak where they are the ones that gets the call up to Chicago. So I don't know, that just to me is something I'm watching extra close this year, which is different than past years where it was Owen Caissie or Moises Ballesteros was going to hit his way onto the roster, regardless of injury, right? If Owen Caissie ended up putting up 1,000 OPS in AAA last year, he was going to be up in Chicago, regardless of where.
But this year is not.
Exactly.
So, I think with Moises, it's a little bit more like you have those two catchers and you really have nobody else. Mm-hmm. With the two outfielders, like they're vying against each other, but there's also guys who are right now on the free agent market. So I think it's really important for Kevin to get off to a hot start. Owen, with the injury, he's going to be given a little bit more grace and probably will be at the AAA level a little bit longer just to get integrated. For Kevin being one of the last cuts out of spring training, one of the last cuts from Japan, finishing last year up in the big leagues, he's so talented. It's just he needs to obviously put together a full AAA season or a half a AAA season where he's really good and really focused, and things need to fall his way up in the big leagues for him to be up there. But if Kevin goes up there, he's going to be expected to produce.
He's been incredibly consistent, Alcantara has, over the course of his minor league career at each stop, right? Like just,
I think offensively, sure. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And in terms of season long production, not necessarily, he has not been consistent from month to month. That's not been the case at all for Kevin Alcantara. But over the course of the season, you look at his season long numbers and you're like, oh, like he just put up a WRC plus of 120 again.
Yes, and then his OPS is well over 800, and he's a guy who's going to hit 20 bombs, and like he's still going to draw some walks, and like the chase rate might be high, but he doesn't strike out all that much. Like he'll strike out early in the season, but not really at the end of the season. So that's what Kevin does.
This is an important year for him, in my opinion, to really like break out even more so than that consistent 825.
Here's my cop. He's a guy right now. He needs to be a dude by the middle of the season.
Yeah, I agree. And that's what will distinguish him as being different than what we saw from Alexander Canario or what we saw from Nelson Velasquez. And I think it's in him, but he just needs to absolutely show.
Well, and I also think that the reason that he kind of jumps the page over Canario and Velasquez is he can play all three positions defensively. Yep. And when you talk to some of the coaches in Iowa and they say he's got the best first jump off the bat that I've seen, even better than PCA. So it's just the defensive effort, the defensive desire, and the defensive consistency.
Yeah, I completely agree. Anything else you got on those top 100 type guys?
No, I mean, I think with Owen, you just have to be patient this year. I'm not saying that 2025 is a lost year, but when you have offseason surgeries and an injury like that, like you have to be careful. I mean, he's a guy who really profiles as an everyday player up in the big leagues. And when you look at the Cubs outfielders, Ian Happ, Seiya Suzuki, like it's not like they have long-term contracts. They got 2 more years, and that gets into Owen's 24 and 25-year-old seasons. So he needs to be healthy. He needs to be able to produce. He needs to be put in a good position where he gets better and better, because I think his time will come with the Cubs. It might be in 2 years, but it'll come.
Yeah, the contract situation in Chicago is huge for Owen. I agree with that. So we've got these top 100 guys that are destined for Iowa, but the fun part is there's other prospects that are really good prospects on the hitting side of things. We'll get into the pitchers here in a bit, but which is another fun category. But there's other hitting prospects that are really good. Jonathon Long has gotten a lot of spring training at bats this year, and he's coming off an incredibly hot streak to the back half of the 2024 campaign going into the Arizona Fall League. We've got Christian Franklin, who is one of my favorite prospects to follow. Pablo Aliendo is a guy who's been on radars for quite some time, and you already mentioned Ben Cowles. All of those guys are good quality prospects to have in the organization. Let's start off with Jonathon Long, because I think he was kind of the most fun ending to the 2024 campaign. Yeah. You didn't see him in Iowa last year.
No, I've seen him in spring training. Yeah, I mean, he can hit and hit a little bit more. I mean, that bat to ball tool is real big for him. I mean, you could see the swing, you could see the approach, how it differs from 0-1 counts to ones with 2 strikes. He can use all fields. He is not afraid for his A swing and his B swing. Like, he knows how to differentiate between the two. I think he's a real seasoned bat. But he's somebody that, like, you could tell is putting in the work defensively. Like, he's put in a lot of work at first. He can play the corners. He's put in some work at third. I like him a lot. I think that he can hit in the big leagues right now.
So you mentioned the James Triantos best contact since Chris Bryant, right?
Yeah.
Jonathon Long's swing. I've been
It's
saying that
it's Chris Bryant.
It's
Yes.
Chris
That was
Bryant,
the first
right?
thing that I said on the broadcast. I'm like,
Yeah.
that the mechanics, like how he stands upright and how he coils the bat and just like his swing path is very KB. Like, it's very clear who he models the swing after.
I think it was Sam Wiederhaft. It was after, I think Johnny Long hit a walk-off maybe, or a big time home run in Myrtle. And he texted me, he goes, "Hey, I think I see KB swinging and Jonathon Long."
Yeah.
And I posted a clip of the two swings side by side. And it's like, yeah, that's
no, it is. It's the follow through. It's like the backside of his swing. That's very, like, the fluidity of the swing is very much Chris Bryant.
I think he's athletic enough to play a little bit of left field if you want him to play some left field too. The defensive thing, I know he's working on it. I know he's getting better, but I'm not sure where his ultimate home is between first, third, and left.
But I don't know if he hits for enough power to be like a first base primary option.
Mm-hmm.
I think he would need a little bit more juice for that. I mean, he's got pop, but I mean, he's not somebody who I see hitting 22 homers. I see him hitting 17 homers, 15 homers, which is where you could put in the corners. You could possibly put a third. You could, see if you could put it second. I think he's a little long limb to be second. I probably see corner infield more for him.
Yeah, I could see that too. Christian Franklin. He's gotten a lot of time in left field, some in center field here in spring training. Another guy that ended the year last year in Double-A Tennessee. Another guy that ended with a hot second half in Double-A Tennessee a year ago. He kind of made some adjustments to his toe tap, to his leg kick, to the way that he loaded when the pitch was coming in. And the fact that he's getting this much time in MLB spring training is fun.
It's real good for him. I mean, he's a pretty high draft pick over a couple of years ago, and he's somebody who, if you draft an outfielder that high out of college, you want him to produce. So I think that, if Christian starts the year in Tennessee or Iowa, like, he's going to play every day. He's somebody that you look and you see OBP. You see somebody who tracks a lot of pitches, draws a lot of walks, and with that load of mechanics at the plate, like, that is meant to track the ball well, not to strike out, to see the pitcher. And I think that he does that better than pretty much anybody in the organization. So I think that his offensive profile is pretty high, just for somebody who, he did strike out a little bit more in his younger days than he does now. And the walk rate has gone up and the strikeout rate's gone down. And the contact percentage has gotten more and the EV, and it's gotten better. So I like him.
Yeah, I mean, this bears repeating. I've talked about it on the show over the course of this offseason and in my interview with Christian Franklin. We talked about this quite a bit, but the swing and miss, like you said, way down compared to where he was at in Arkansas, where that was our biggest concern.
That was a big concern. He didn't want to swing and miss, and he sacrificed a little power for it. But if you look at the back half of last year, like, the exit velocities, as I said, like, the EVs were up, the hard contact was up. He was starting to drive the ball. He was walking more. He was striking out less. And I think that's the progression you want to see over the course of a season.
He is the single best player in this organization in terms of working at bat and having a good disciplined approach at the plate. It's weird to me. I look at a lot of similarities between Christian Franklin and Christian Hernandez, who's going to be a couple levels below Franklin. In the fact that they were originally touted as being these kind of the speed power combination when they signed or were drafted. And then both of them kind of transitioned themselves into guys that were more contact oriented. They lost the power. They still had the defense. They still had the speed. They had all of that. And now simultaneously, we're looking at both Christian Franklin and Christian Hernandez as guys where it's like, all right, if they can keep that or keep most of that, and then incorporate the power back into their game, those are dangerous hitters.
Yeah, I think with Christian Hernandez, it's a little bit different just because he was signed as a 16-year-old and he's still just 21 years old. With Christian Franklin, as I said, when you are a college drafted outfield and you're drafted that high, like, I'm not saying the leash is short on you, but you're not going to make your big league debut at 26. So I think that they want him, playing in spring training games to say, hey, here's what you're going to do against big league competition. Make your adjustment, go rake at whatever level you're at, and we want to bring you to the big leagues at some point.
Yeah, I don't mind that he was not protected from the Rule 5 draft. I don't mind that he was not selected in the Rule 5 draft. I think that he still has a chance to debut potentially this year in Chicago, regardless of all that. And at the very least, I think we could see him next year in 2026 in Chicago. So,
I agree.
yeah, I mean, you guys listening know that I'm a big Christian Franklin guy, so I don't need to keep talking about that.
Toot
Pablo
his horn.
Aliendo. Pablo Aliendo, another catcher, right? So you talked about Moises Ballesteros kind of staying ready. Like he may be the guy called to Chicago when or if Carson Kelly or Miguel Amaya go on the shelf this season.
I mean,
Pablo
you hope they
Aliendo is
don't.
another guy, right?
Yeah.
Like Aliendo is there. He's been in this organization for a long time. We know pitchers really like throwing to Pablo Aliendo.
Yeah, I mean that's the big one right there. If you're looking for a defensive-minded catcher, like let's say it's Carson Kelly who goes down, and it's Miguel Amaya. Like if you're bringing up a catcher, you would have to consider it to be Pablo Aliendo, just with the way that he handles pitchers and kind of the game that he commands behind the plate. So you have Amaya, who's already considered like an offensive plus catcher, somebody who's working on his defensive element, game calling. Like you need somebody up there along with Amaya who can call a game, who does have the respect of pitchers. And I'm not saying that Moises Ballesteros doesn't, because he's worked really hard at that. I just think that Pablo Aliendo has been a defensive plus catcher all throughout his minor league career. So if Carson Kelly does get injured, it's probably Pablo Aliendo that gets a really big look at going up to the big leagues, getting put on the 40-man roster, and the rest happening.
I mean, Pablo is one of the more fun players in this organization and has been for the past few years in terms of his personality on the field, everything we hear about him as a teammate off the field, but also like the way that he plays the game too. Like he's going to strike, if he comes up to Chicago, he's going to strike out 40% of his at-bats. Like that's going to happen with Pablo.
It's not great.
But
if you do that, if that is part of your game, like you better be able to call a game and you better be able to command the run game, and he can do both.
And he can do both. And he has a lot of pop. He showed last year that like he was that guy that struck out a ton, but he had a lot of pop at the plate. And it's like if you do all the other things, if you manage a pitching staff well, if you have all the soft skills behind the plate, and also you can run into one from time to time. Like I'd rather have that guy in Chicago rather than a guy that is a no pop at all, and he's just like he may dribble a ball through the
a
middle
guy
of
who's
the
going to hit 222 with like a 296 slug. Like,
yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
I'd rather a guy kind of run into one from time to time, just by chance, because he has that pop, So I just love following Pablo Aliendo's career up to this point. So I'm excited to see what this year has in store for him. I think it's going to be a fun tandem in Iowa behind the plate with Pablo Aliendo and Moises Ballesteros. And if they have a veteran guy back there as well, I know that there always is, but it's going to be a fun catching tandem for sure down there in Iowa. So one more hitter that I know you mentioned, we won't have to go too much detail because you've already mentioned him a little bit here, has been Cowles, which has put together a really strong spring training performance. I mean, for me, it's his flexibility. It's his ability to play, like you mentioned, second, third, shorts, and do all of them pretty well. That becomes incredibly important, and it becomes incredibly important for a guy that's already on the 40-man roster and for an organization that no longer has Luis Vasquez there in the organization to play shortstop in case something happens with Dansby and or Nico.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Ben, I mean, he's somebody who during spring training has played second, short, and third a lot, and he's played it pretty well. Yeah, I think he's somebody where John Birdie goes down, Gage Workman goes down if he stays, Vidal Brujan goes down if he stays, that if those guys get hurt, it's probably going to be Cowles because, as you said, he is on the 40-man roster. He is very versatile. He's a guy who was a proven college bat at Maryland, who was hit at every single level. You look at his year last year before he got hurt, he was really good. And then he came into spring training. In his first game, he had a bomb to left center halfway up the berm. So he has pop. He has good plate presence. He's got defensive versatility, and he's on the 40-man roster. So if you're looking at guys who are projected to be at Iowa who may make it up to the big leagues, like Ben Cowles is probably on your top five because unlike James Triantos and unlike Owen Caissie's now on the 40-man, but like unlike James Triantos, it's on the 40-man roster. So
I haven't seen any Ben Cowles and Matt Shaw former teammates content this spring.
I'll start it. Yeah, no, they are, and they're Terps, and their Terps are going to the Sweet 16 right now, so they must be happy.
Yeah, they lost it on that game-winning shot a couple days ago.
I bet.
Yeah. All right, man. Let's transition. Let's talk about some pitchers because the pitching staff is fun. There are pitching traditional prospects in that rotation. There's some traditional prospects in the bullpen as well. Let's start off with the rotation. We've got to start with the top 100 guy in Cade Horton because he has been in spring training games. He's been throwing in spring training games, which was honestly coming into the spring. I wasn't sure that we were going to see that.
Well, you didn't see it. You didn't see it last year. He didn't
Exactly.
pitch a spring training game last year.
Yeah.
After a big year, and then he got hurt, and they were really cautious with him. And I wasn't expecting to see him. Now, he's gone 3 or 4 times, and he's pitched pretty well. And I think that the location is something that they're looking to get better and better. But he's somebody that the velocity is back up 95 to 97. Like, the curveball actually looks really good. I mean, the slider always looks good, but the curveball looks good. Like, it's there, it's back. You just have to be able to do that over the course of the year.
Yeah, I love that the velo is back. I think he was sitting 95 to 97 his last outing in spring. Which
I watched his first bullpen on the backfields with nobody there, and that first fastball was at like 96.8. So I'm like, okay, like, you're back.
And because towards the end of his time, obviously the caveats in place there during the end of his time last year in Iowa. Before he hit the IL, was that he was not 95.
He was 93 to 95, touching 96.
Yeah,
I think his last outing, his hardest fastball was like 96 too.
So I'm paying super close attention to how he gets handled in terms of innings this year. My thing with Cade Horton is as soon as he shows himself as ready for the big leagues, that he's going to be in the big leagues. It's not a matter of for Cade Horton. It's not a matter of is there a spot that opens up for him in Chicago? Whether it's the bullpen
if he's shoving in AAA and he's pumping 96 to 98 and he's striking out 7 or 8 a clip, which is he's a first round draft pick, and you're expecting him to do that, he will be up in the big leagues. I would agree with you.
I'm thinking that 100 innings is kind of my like mental target for Cade Horton. Is like if he can get up. Last year he had 40-ish or so.
Yeah, I mean, and they're going to start him slow too. I can't imagine that he's going to throw more than 2-3 innings in his first couple starts with Iowa. So, if you can get to that 100 inning threshold and he's healthy over the course of the season, I'd be happy with that.
2 other prospects that I know fans really love. We'll start with Connor Noland because he should be ready. As far as I'm aware, he should be ready for the Iowa opening day this year. I'll throw both names in it. Connor Noland and then Brandon Birdsell is the other guy I want to talk about. Brandon Birdsell obviously is not healthy right now. He will not start off the year in Iowa to begin the season. He's working his way back from a lat problem. And so we might see him closer towards mid-season. But when he's officially assigned to an affiliate, it will be Iowa. Obviously, he spent last year in Iowa. But what do you like about those 2 guys? We've talked about them plenty, but I want to hear your thoughts on Connor Noland and Brandon Birdsell and how they kind of fit into the major league depth, but in AAA.
Yeah, I'll start with Bird. He's a dog. He just goes out there. He's just like, I'm going to throw my stuff. If you hit it, you hit it. If you don't, you don't. Like, he's got like late 1990s mound presence. Like, he's got like Derek Lowe mound presence, and I love it. But he's a guy that, like, remember in college, like, he was 96 to 99. Like, he has an electric arm. And yeah, even in some starts at Iowa where he was striking out 8, 9, 10 guys, like, he was 95 to 97, and he was 95 at his first pitch, and he was 97 at his last pitch. So he's that build that could withstand a 7-inning start or a 130-inning season. Like, he's an ox. So I really like him. Like, he's kind of like a thoroughbred starter to me, like somebody who can eat a lot of innings, somebody who's going to challenge you. He's going to throw a lot of strikes. So I like Birdie a lot. Like, he's one of my favorite pitching prospects that they've had in Iowa in quite some time. Connor Noland just throws strikes.
Yeah.
Just throws strikes. He just knows how to pitch. I mean, he's somebody who he's never going to throw 94 to 96. Like, yeah, they're going to try to get him to like velo camp, and he'll throw 92 to 94. And if he's doing that, he's in the big leagues. If he's 90 to 92, he's probably a fringe guy. But he's somebody who's always going to give you an opportunity to win the game. Like, he's not going to pitch himself out of games. He's not going to walk a lot of guys. He's not going to pitch backwards. He's somebody that he has an arsenal. He sticks to it, and he's going to pitch his game. So I like the way that Connor goes out there on the mound every 5th or 6th day and goes about his business.
I love the way that both these guys have put themselves on the prospect map. Is like wildly appropriate for the way a major league coaching staff likes to view a AAA starter, in my opinion, right? Like it's the fact that Brandon Birdsell's a dog on the mound. It's the fact that Connor Noland fills up.
He's a dog. Like, I smile watching him pitch.
Yeah.
I don't care if he's giving up like seeds or if he's striking out guys. It's just like the mound presence is so like era that we grew up watching.
But the coaching staff in Chicago or Iowa would love to have those guys and trust those players to come
Yeah.
up if they need to make a spot start. If Brandon Birdsell's back and healthy, and it is August, it's the dog days of summer, and they just need a spot. Someone goes down and they need a day off, right? One of the rotation guys needs a day off, and they gotta kick it
Hey,
to Brandon
even a
Birdsell.
bullpen arm. Like, he's a guy that could come in there. He's like, hey, I'm going to pump in 20 pitches at 96 to 98. And like, if my arm hurts, so be it. Like, he was a closer in college.
Yeah, the Cubs haven't had a ton of prospect rotation depth over the past
Yeah.
decade
And
plus.
we're forgetting one other arm. Guess who just got optioned? Jordan Wicks.
Yeah, yep,
Former
that's a
first
good
round
point.
draft pick. So when your rotation going into a season looks like Jordan Wicks, Cade Horton, Brandon Birdsell, Connor Noland, Caleb Killian, not bad.
Yeah, that's a pretty damn good starting rotation for AAA.
Correct.
I'll take that every day of the week. Let's before we get off these starting pitchers, I want to hear Cade Horton is, I know we already talked about him, but like he is just the most like stoic player and from a fan's perspective, right? Where it's just he's out there and he is locked in, right? Like
Yeah.
he's locked in on what he's doing. Is there a little bit of Cade Horton off the field that's not like that, or is he like that off the field as well?
He's just very laid back.
I love that.
He's just very like Southern chill, like won't let a lot get to him. Like really good athlete. You wouldn't expect it. Like remember he was a college football quarterback too. So
Yeah.
just and he's intense. Like there's some
Yeah.
fire to him, but like yes, he's very focused. He's very laid back. Like there's not that many curveballs, so to speak, with Cade Horton, even though he throws a good curve.
All right, let's talk about the relievers because they are always my favorite topic to talk about is relief pitchers. Let's there's a trio of guys in slated for AAA, more than likely, that are really fun to watch out of the pen. That's Jack Neely, Riley Martin, friend of the show, and Frankie Scalzo Jr., friend of the show.
Okay.
All three of those guys are I think that Jack Neely is my top ranked pitching relief prospect in this organization, and his stuff is just not, the slider is gross.
It's disgusting, and he looked really good during spring training. And I think that Craig Counsell said this, like, even though these guys got optioned and they got optioned early in camp, like they're going to be expected to pay dividends up in the big leagues. And I think that Jack Neely is going to be a guy that might start with Iowa, but like at the end of the season, you're seeing 25, 30, 35 appearances up in the big leagues.
Yeah. And I mean, the vibes just shout like major league closer. I don't know that he's ultimately a major league closer, but like
he's probably he could be like a 7th or 8th inning guy, but it's like the stash, like again, like
the turtleneck.
Yes, the pitching presence is just like I'm unapologetically me, and like I'm going to go out there with my stuff, and you can hit it if you want, but you're probably not going to.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of having terrific aura, Frankie Scalzo Jr.
I knew it. I knew that. I knew that pivot.
I mean, we're talking about the stash and the aura. Frankie Scalzo Jr. is a stud. I mean, what have you like? He's looked good in spring training. He's looked really good in spring training. He's given up some runs here and there.
Yeah, I mean, he looked good in spring training last year. What I like with Frankie, and I've talked to a couple pitching coaches about this, like Frankie Scalzo at 92 to 95 is a good minor league pitcher. Frankie Scalzo at 93 to 96, touching 97 is a big league reliever. And you know what he was doing up in spring training? 93 to 96, touching 97. If he can consistently do that, like he's got mound presence, he can throw a myriad of pitches, he's got control, he's got some deception. There's a lot of swing and miss to his game. Like if he can sit there, I think that he could be a big leaguer too.
The message boards after his first appearance in spring, where he touched 97 a couple times, were going wild for
it was nuts. Well, and again, like we saw him at the beginning of his Iowa stint, like 92 to like 94.5. And then I think it was like right after the All-Star break, like right after an off day. And he's like, I'm going to try to throw harder. And his first fastball was like 96. I'm like, all right, try and you'll succeed, I guess.
Yeah. But, I reached out to him. I was like, hey, like pumping 97. He's like, yeah, there might be a little bit more of that this year. I was like,
oh, nice. Cool. Okay.
Yeah. Cool. So, I mean, it's just.
Must be nice.
It must be nice. It's incredibly important for him. Like you mentioned, like there's a big difference between him sitting low 90s and him sitting mid 90s. And when you have a slider that's as good as it is with Frankie Scalzo Jr. and when whiffs are the thing that need to improve with Frankie, right? Like he wasn't getting as many whiffs as you'd like to see from a traditional major league bullpen.
Right-handed reliever. Yes.
Exactly. And so that's going to be incredibly important. And I think that having a fastball that not only has velo at 96, but rides up in the zone the way it appears to be doing so this spring.
Well, it does, and it also sets up your slider. So if you're throwing 96 and up first pitch of an inning, then you can throw that slider or sweeper or whatever it is, especially against righties, later in counts. It's going to get him off balance. It's a setup pitch for him.
Talk to me about Riley Martin, because I'll listen however long you want to talk about it.
So I think if there is any reliever right now in the iCubs bullpen that has their best chance of going to the big leagues, it's Riley, because of the Cubs situation with left-handed pitchers. He's one Caleb Thielbar injury away. If Riley's throwing strikes, obviously you saw how gross his strikeout numbers were last year. You saw at the back end of last year how his control was that much better. So Caleb Thielbar goes down. Guess who's going up to the big leagues? It is either Luke Little if he's healthy, and if Luke Little's not healthy, it's Riley Martin. So you really have to keep an eye on him.
The throwing strikes and trusting his stuff in the zone is the most important thing, because the stuff is gross enough that it can play in the zone. That curveball and the fastball that has ride can play in the zone and get
And
whiffs.
the fastball's 96 to 97, and it's a real 96 to 97. Like, it gets up on you quickly.
Yeah. So I mean, like and it sounds like from my interview with him this offseason, like it sounds like that is the biggest hurdle for him. Like that's the biggest thing that he's working on, is like he understands now that his stuff is good enough. And that was something that he's taken with him from his time in college at Quincy University, where it's like, hey, look, like my stuff was good enough at D2 Quincy University to play in the zone, obviously. But then he goes up to Myrtle Beach, he goes up to South Bend, he goes up to Tennessee, and he goes up to Iowa. And it's like, oh, it's also good enough to get swings and misses at these levels.
Well, his strikeout numbers were among the best at the AAA level with any pitcher. I mean, there was a lot of walks. The whip was high. He got hit around a little bit when he lived up in the zone and laid flat. But his strikeout numbers were really good. If he can throw more quality pitches, quality strikes, be effectively wild, again, where he's situated in the Cubs bullpen, there are not many lefties. As I said, Caleb Thielbar goes down. There's two people who are going to get brought up. It's Luke Little and it's him.
Yeah. All right, man. That's all I've got as far as the prospects, the traditional prospects in Iowa. Are there any other players that you want to mention that deserve some love? You kind of mentioned Jordan Wicks a little bit, but are there other players that aren't prospects, whether they're old major league, they're signings from this year, or they've already been up in Chicago and they may see some time in Iowa this year, that are worth mentioning here?
So like what you are with Frankie Scalzo, I am with Daniel Palencia.
Yeah.
Whenever you have a guy throwing 102.7 with that type of slider splitter combo, he is one adjustment away from not only being a big league reliever, but being a back end of the bullpen arm. Like he's that close. And I know that he went to Japan and gave up runs and he's struggled with control and he hasn't had the most big league success, but like he has all the tools. Like you have all the pieces of the puzzle. You just have to put the puzzle together and he's got it. So I think that he is one adjustment away, one light bulb away from things really clicking and him being an impact arm in the big leagues. So Daniel Palencia would be my guy.
Yeah. What's it like seeing Dixon Machado back in the organization again?
The third time? Yeah, shades of 2019 and 2023. Dixon's one of my favorite people I've met in baseball. He is the ultimate clubhouse guy. Everybody loves him who's around him. He's going to be in baseball forever, whether it's a player or a coach. But maybe there's a reason why organizations keep holding on to him and bringing him back. So love me some Dixon, love me some Darius Hill. Those are my guys. So
yeah, it's been fun seeing Darius has gotten some at bats towards the back end of the spring training.
Get a home run his first spring training at bat. His first spring training hit. So
I just love those type of. I mean that's why I'm doing this show, right? Is to talk about more than just the top 100.
And we're talking for 48 minutes.
Exactly. All right, man. Any other different this year than most for you is that being down in Mesa, calling these spring training games, you've got some eyes on guys that are not necessarily going to spend their time in Iowa this year.
Sure.
Is there anybody that stood out that will be in the lower levels this season that has caught your eye in Major League camp?
Yeah, I thought Christian Hernandez had a couple nice at-bats during spring training and Cactus League play. I think it's going to be a big year for Ethan Hearn, a guy who's like in part of that catching depth. He was a high draft pick. He was a high school catcher. So now he's approaching the age where it's like, all right, like you're not in high school anymore. And I think that he's really embraced that. I think it's a big year for Ethan Hearn. I think it's a big year for Christian Hernandez. I think it's a big year for Drew Gray. Somebody who was also a high, level draft pick, lefty coming out of high school. So you're starting to get to the point where those guys who were drafted out of high school 2 or 3 years ago, like now it's time. And for Drew Gray and Ethan Hearn, now it's that time.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. All right, man. That's all I've got for you. Unless there's anything else you want to talk about. I've got nothing else for you.
No, we're good. It's always fun joining you. I loved your episode with Jason. You guys were able to give each other appropriate amount of crap. So,
Yep. Yep.
but I'm excited for iCubs fans. I mean, Jason is somebody I've known in this business for well over a decade. He's somebody who is a great person. Iowa Cubs fans are going to love him. He's a hell of a broadcaster. He's really, really good. So I'm happy that he got that job, and I'm happy he's going to be, sitting in that chair, Principal Park, in the coming weeks. And yeah, I mean, I'm gonna miss that chair, but I'm glad that he's sitting in it.
I mean, I think that if you don't pay super close attention, you see a bald guy sitting in the Iowa Cubs
Maybe the
broadcasting
same thing.
booth.
He's taller and nicer than I am, so he has all like the good features that I don't have. Like he's 6'2", I'm 5'11". He's Midwestern and nice. I'm from the East Coast and not nice. We have like some redeeming positive characteristics that I don't have. One other note, I want to give a shout out to Sam and Myrtle. Obviously, he's gone on to a different career path. He's still in sports, but love Sam, really good broadcaster. Love to see Jason and Sam go back to back at some point in terms of hype. But no, Sam is a really talented broadcaster. Wish the best for him.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that this is a weird year for Cubs fans listening to Cubs minor league broadcasts.
It'll
right?
be fine.
No, and it will be fine. I think we're replacing you guys with obviously very, very good people in the booth.
Yeah.
But we've grown accustomed to hearing the four broadcasters at those different levels, and throw Max Toma into the mix as well, where Max Toma was up in South Bend with BK. And so it's going to sound different, obviously, but it's going to be terrific. I'm very excited to hear and see what the minor league system looks like this year. But man, like I said, thank you so much for coming on the show as much as you did. We did not deserve you to be on the show, but we'll get you back on.
You could still have me on. Like I'm still going to be doing some prospect stuff with Marquee, and going to be on Road to Wrigley and doing some stuff on the content side. So again, if you guys are interested in what I have to say about prospects, get the Marquee Sports Network app. Just get all the app exclusive content. So we're going to be focusing a lot on minor league baseball because I mean that's my strength, that's my background, and that's something that I'm really passionate with, and I'm not going to lose that. So.
Well, we are very, very excited. Folks out there listening, this is coming out on Tuesday, the 25th is when this episode is dropping, which means that the Iowa Cubs do have their opening series, their opening games starting this week. They open up the season on this Friday, and we'll be tuned in for sure. So check that out. We'll also be back in later this week in just a few days talking about the Knoxville Smokies, which maybe once I do the preview,
you'll get used to it. I was saying during the broadcast it was still the Texas.
Yeah.
So right there, I get it.
So we'll do the preview for them later this week, but we're gonna get back into the actual minor league season. Super, super excited. Again, Alex, thanks so much. Everybody out there, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll be back in your ears in just a few short days. Take care.
Thanks, guys. Go Cubs, go.